didn't the Buddha's parinibbana, he went from the fourth, didn't he? He kind of went up, down.
Well,
Yeah, there was that up-down thing, and I personally, I mean, it wasn't him saying what he was doing,
Okay,
right? It was
somebody else
somebody's
reporting.
interpretation of what they saw.
Yeah.
And the author of the suttas is Ananda, who, according to his own record, did not have jhana until a year after the Buddha had died. And throughout the suttas, the Buddha is constantly criticizing Ananda for, don't waste your time, Ananda. Go over there, there's a tree, meditate. Stop sewing those stupid robes and go meditate, right? And Ananda seemed to be kind of sort of I'm trying to come up with an astrological metaphor. He was the social one.
Okay.
So he would have an air sign. He probably had, his sun sign was probably an air sign of Gemini or something. And so he was the social butterfly, which the Buddha probably needed because, he didn't come off as particularly compassionate. If anything, he was extremely critical of other religious movements, and and so I think he needed a front man like Ananda to make him easier to swallow. So I don't really buy that up-down thing. There's also a sutta, I can't remember which one it is. Brasington likes to quote that sutta because he's got this whole idea that jhana is some kind of jungle gym that you go up and down with, right? And to me, I'm sorry, that's all too volitional. That cannot be jhana. So I don't buy the Parinibbana Sutta that much. There are sections that I find valuable in there, but that section I don't.
Okay.
How about you? How do you feel about that?
Oh,
mean, it's
I'm not
experience.
attached to that sutta. I was just, you had said, sometimes vis-a-vis the black,
Right.
You can kind of blast off, and I saw that as a parallel.
Okay,
Yeah.
blast off. Oh, I
Yeah.
see what you mean. Sure. You're right. It's a good parallel. Arguably, I think he goes from 1 to 8 back to 1, and then he goes 1 to 4, and then he's gone.
Then he's gone, yeah.
Right. And that might be a reaffirmation that, remember, he had studied the immaterial dimensions with his two gurus, but he didn't feel like he was enlightened until he had mastered the first 4 jhanas. And I think that's reasonably accurate. Although I don't think that would be a description of his death. It doesn't ring true to me. I'm sorry?
I just remember him saying he went into the 6th and the 4th. It was like this
Up and down.
up and down.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. I would expect that as, remember he lay dying from food poisoning, and I would expect that he'd go maybe 1 through 4, and then he'd go into the immaterial dimensions, and maybe his body would still be alive for a brief period of time.
And he lets go. Yeah.
But he let go, and he was gone, and he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like the story of St. Francis, his death. St. Francis, had a profound spiritual awakening after he had been sent off to war. He came back with this trauma, probably war trauma, and that spiritual crisis propelled him into a spiritual awakening. And then he spent the next 15 years healing the sick, working with lepers and so forth. And I think he contracted leprosy. I think his stigmata was just really leprosy. They just came up with it's stigmata. But when he was 35, at quite a young age, he died at the age of 35. And what he did is, it's not that like he got sick and died. He took his clothes off and laid down on the rocks in the wintertime. And,
hypothermia.
Right, and just let the heat be sucked out of the body, and he was not coming back. So he probably went into some kind of immaterial domain, and he wasn't going to come back. He was going to let that body die. And he was hard on his donkey, I think too hard.
Yeah. Many of them were.
Right, especially many of the Christian mystics were hard on the donkey, or the beast. I call it the beast.
Yeah.